Next, let's look at some of the ways we can create lines using Dynamo. Now, the most basic function we're going to use is line by start point, end point, and we'll just connect together a point as the starting point. Let me connect that point to the starting point at 20 on the x-axis all the way to 30 on the x-axis. And we'll create a line there. Let me kind of just pop off. Focus on the geometry. There we can see there's the line from 20 to 30 on the x-axis. So that's the most basic thing we'll do. Let me go ahead and disconnect those so we can instead focus on how we create a series of lines. Now the idea with the series of lines, what we're going to do is kind of plot some different points and then connect them dot to dot. So connecting basically the tail of one line segment to the head of the next line segment. So you'll see I have 4 different points that I've plotted here. They're not strictly linear. You can sort of see they're kind of forming kind of a funny curve over here. Let's go through and actually join them end to end. So what I'm going to do is basically create a list of them. Okay, now I have a list of the 4 different points. A little watch function can show you here. And what I want to do is basically connect, the tail. I want to connect 0 to 1, then I want to connect 1 to 2, then 2 to 3. Okay, so what I want to do is use this initial list of points as the starting points for my line segments. Okay, but for the ending points, what I'd like to have is point 1, 2, and 3. So 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Okay, so what I need to do is actually basically remove the first item of the list so that I can have a list of the endpoints. So there's a great function called list rest of items. And if you use that, what it basically does is just remove the first item in the list and give you everything else. Okay, so we can use this shortened list really as our list of endpoints. And now you can see we connect that together to make these 3 different line segments. Okay, so just connecting them end to end. Now the other way we often create lines when we are working kind of with points and creating multiple lines is we often try to create pairs of different points to create different line segments. And there's some different variations we'll see here based on the lacing we choose. Let me just kind of illustrate what we mean. So I have 2 different series here. I have a series here that's going from basically 40 to 50. Okay, you'll see that it's a little diagonal series of points over there. I have a second series of points. Let's connect them. And this series of points is just a little bit shorter. Okay, so you'll see in this case I have 6 points, in this case I have 11 points, and we're going to start connecting them together. So let's look at the variations of how you can do that. Okay, what happens is when I connect the starting points, pardon me, to those ending points, and we get something that looks like this. So let's think about what's going on here. This all has to do with how we do things pairwise. Okay, and if we think about, I think we're creating those lines, we're going to look at this whole notion of the lacing. The lacing is one of the options that's available right here. And by default, okay, it often uses shortest lacing. It could use longest or cross product. If you want to accept that explicitly, which we're doing here, okay, you can kind of control the behavior. If you have it set to shortest lacing, what it's going to do is it's going to take the shortest list, in this case the list of 6, and create 6 different lines based on that. Okay, so just take the shortest list and only create that many different elements. If you create the longest list, let's do that, or use the longest lacing. Okay, it'll create a list of 11 elements. But what does it do, since it doesn't have pairs for all the different elements? It just takes the last item in the shortest list and keeps on repeating it to fill out the pairs. So that's what longest lacing looks like. Finally, we'll take a look at cross-product lacing. And what does cross-product lacing do? It basically creates combinations of all the different pairs in the series. So it's not going to create 11 or 6. It's actually going to go through and create 66 different items, okay, which is where you get something like that. Okay, so again, lacing becomes very important when you're working with series of numbers. Okay, those are the various options for getting started creating lines quickly. So let's start turning our attention to how we can start using these points and lines to create some useful geometry for our modeling.